Next up on the XRP Minute, we have a very special guest tonight. We have Matthew. He's been on before. He's going to take us through some of the geopolitical stuff that's going on. We're going to rap about it, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to mini workshop it. And it all starts right now. Chip here with the XRP Minute. What is going on out there, people? I love all of you. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Like I said, we have a special guest tonight. We have Matthew, L-I-N-Y. He's at Matthew, L-I-N-Y. Matthew, please say hello.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Let's see how we're hearing. Guys, give us a mic check if it's okay. See if everything's good. I'm going to run through it, but tell me if you can hear. Go ahead and say something again, Matthew. Talk about your day.
Well, I actually had an interesting day because I was actually in the water. I do a lot of surfing up here in New York, and this is the first time here actually a little bit of a thing pop up in front of me. So, pretty interesting experience, but fun.
Wow, there's surfing in New York?
Yes, there is. There's surfing if you check out my on the Twitter top there, the banner is actually a wave right in front of my house.
Man. Yeah. Do you have to wear a wetsuit? Jeez.
I was in the water with a wetsuit today, yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine it's kind of cold. Well, just give me 1 second. Let me just shout out some of the peeps in here tonight. So we have, always like to shout out number one, we have HODL Report. That's Jeff from the HODL Report, and he was on last night. He had two cool super guests on last night. He was talking with Gaming Crypto and Crypto Sifu, and it was a cool show. And let's see, tomorrow night, what do we have up here? Friday night, holding that down is Rain, and then Jeff from HODL Report is going to stream again on Saturday mornings. You wake up early, you get yourself a cup of coffee. I don't know, some guys like cinnamon in it. Personally, I don't. I actually like coffee in my coffee, which is kind of a weird thing. And when I was actually in Chile, I was excited because I'm like, it's only two countries really away from Colombia. They should have some amazing coffee. And I was mostly drinking a lot of instant coffee, so that was kind of an odd thing. But let's shout out who is here tonight. I'm going to shout out some peeps here. Let me run through them. So we have, let's see, we have Alex Yeats is here, Doc Callum, Crypto Sifu, comedian Carl Lewis. Who else am I missing? Annalise George from Down Under. And who else is here? If you could go ahead and, if you could do me a favor and tweet this out. Let's get some more peeps in here if we can. Big John says, sup. What's up, Big John? How you doing? And XRP Connie Angel. I always say Connie Angel. It's XRP Angel Connie. Okay, it's the same thing, really. Matt Richter is here as well. What's going on, Matt? And I think I nailed most of the people. I'm sure some people will be popping in here left and right. So as I said, I have Matthew on. Let's go ahead and put his little bill up here. Let's see what we got. There he is. There's Matthew, and I'll put up his Twitter in a second here, but he's on here. We're gonna talk about some stuff. So Matt, tell me what's going on in the week. Like, tell me what the big story this week, or like something that was sort of that pops right out at you that you thought was either interesting or I don't know. What's one story that grabbed you this week? There were a ton of them, so just give me one or two for off the top of your head.
Yeah, it's got to be the White House coming out and really just talking about the whole crypto space. I think right there you're setting the stage for whatever is about to transpire. And you can come out, you start talking, certain crypto is bad. However, if there's innovation, if there's any type of any thing that makes the level playing field something better for the consumer and or for the financial institutions, it's good. I think that's right there what's happening. You have this behind the scenes. They're getting ready to launch something, and we just see with Japan coming out and people speculating that it's going to be something with the FBI or with that thereabouts. I think that's right where the XRP community is going to focus. And if you look at Japan, Japan is the number two holder of the United States debt. You have something where we owe Japan treasury bonds over, I think it's like $1.1 trillion. Is there a deal being made? Is there a deal being made behind the scenes with crypto or with XRP? I think that's fascinating, and I think that's where ground zero for me is Japan. I know a lot of people. There's a lot of places, but I think Japan's going to be where the launching pad is going to be for what we're about to see take place.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, when you look at, I'm really excited about Japan. The fact that they're the leader, they're really leading the way. I mean, they really were pretty early in the game as far as putting together some regulation and what was acceptable. We saw, I know you posted a story today. We had looked at, there was you also sent me a pretty deep dive and some other stuff as well, but it's kind of interesting to see what's going on with Japan right now. There's so much good news coming out, but I think it's Asia altogether, right? It's not just Japan, but I think everything's coming out. But by the same token, you have what I find pretty interesting. Like, what are your thoughts about India? Like, for example, we're hearing with India. I saw another story today. It's kind of hard to know if it's real or not, but that India is dead set on basically banning all cryptocurrencies. Like, what is your take on that?
Which is fine. Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with that at all because XRP technically is a digital asset, and that's the thing that people need to understand. You have three different, I think, levels of cryptos where you have a cryptocurrency proper as Bitcoin. You have the tokens such as ATM coin, and then you have XRP, which is a utility coin. So if they want to ban crypto, go right ahead. I have no problem because XRP is not a crypto in the regulators' term. They have deemed this thing completely different. So we have problems with that. And
yeah, so I think what you're saying is because it's a little bit different in the sense that Ripple on the Ripple side of things, they've really worked with regulation. They've always been with regulators all the way through. They've always said, let's work with the banks. They're not going to work against them. Where Bitcoin took a sort of an opposite position, where they were like, we want to kill the banks. We don't need banks. We want complete, some dystopian future where we just will control our own money. Everything will be anonymous. Where I think, and what's this other story that I heard? If you've got wind of that too, that I see that banks over in India, it was either one or some of the banks will be using XRapid or using XRP. Did I catch wind of something like that?
the story basically is that all banks, that's what I was looking up. All banks in India, I don't know if it's the private banks, but it's the state-owned banks will be using X current. So because of their current regulations, the corresponding banks have to hold a certain amount of money as liquidity. They can't just start using XRapid because XRapid, you don't need that money. But once the regulations are basically in place, the liquidity can be freed elsewhere, and it's only a matter of time before the next stage in XRapid is being used with XRP.
Got it.
But something else that was interesting that you kind of touched on too. Ripple's not the only ones that are working with the regulators. You just have to look at who owns Ripple. And you're talking Siam Commercial Bank, Axis Bank, and all the other banks. They're also working with the regulators. So it's a almost like a conglomerate of people who own Ripple, who are all championing and going, full bore with the regulators, trying to get everyone to get this digital asset launched.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and for it to really be successful too. So I want to shout a few people that came into the room. Patrick Chip, my brother, my younger brother, Chip the Younger, as I call him. We have Stephanie G that popped in, and who else is here? Who else should I miss? I think that's it. I think they came in. Jeff from Hot Report says he read in the news earlier this morning that Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was talking about JBIC using Yeti Coin as their only digital asset. So that's pretty interesting. Have you heard any of that? Anything about that?
Yeah, I haven't even done any research into the Yeti coin or any coin as such. I know that dear God, there are so many, but I am not aware of what they're trying to do. I know they have something called the digital that they're trying to. I think that's in India, but
Yeah, well,
I don't know that.
well, the Yeti coin is, it's got some interesting properties. I mean, I don't want to get into it because I want to focus on some other areas, but the Yeti coin is really, it's starting to get a little bit of a buzz going out there about the Yeti coin. And then, every once in a while, people like Crypto Sifu will drop things about the Bigfoot coin. And I'm like, it's really not necessary to be bringing in, contrary type of a coin because, there's also the Sasquatch coin, which I heard is being developed. It hasn't been released yet. So, but we want to keep it all about Yeti, and what's going on there. Also the OTC, which is another interesting sort of a story as well. So the OTC is coming. So that's one of the things I like to shout out when we're on here. Like, are you down with OTC? Yeah, you know me. I'm down with OTC. So yeah, OTC is like gaining some ground as well. So we'll probably learn more about that as that comes to light in the future. I wanted to read one of your tweets here, Matt. Here you put out here. Let's see. I wanted to pop this open. This was the G7 Finance and Central Bank Governors meeting. You had put the FTA regarding regulatory concerns. Ministers and governors agreed that possible stablecoin initiatives and their operators would in any case need to meet the highest standards of financial regulation, especially with regard to AML CFT, in order to guarantee they do not affect the stability of a financial system or consumer protection. Possible regulatory gaps would also need to be addressed. So, are you seeing that what we're starting to see probably on a global level is a little bit more agreement in this space, or are we seeing more disagreement when it comes to, regulating and legislation around the world, not just in the U.S., but what are you seeing on your side? Like, what's your take?
I think basically the regulators have already picked their winners, and now what they're doing is they're all parroting the same talking points. You have Britain basically came out with something very similar as well. This was the G7. I'm sure in the coming days you're going to have Japan drop something as well. And basically everyone is now on board with whatever was just decided. And it's only a matter of time before the regulations will then be allowing XRP to be used full force. Remember, it's decentralized, so it has to be an agreement because it's already being used. And whenever you have something that is going to make things faster, cheaper, less, better, they have to do something. And if they don't, and the corporations will just move ahead anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I do like, I mean, when I look at Libra and I look at their white paper, I kind of think they floated it out there. They just wanted to get something out there. They kind of wanted to see what the buzz was going to be. They were just like, brazen about it. Like, hey, we're coming up with our white paper. They're probably still writing in the 11th hour. I mean, as they put the white paper out there, I think they were really fishing for reaction, right? They wanted to see, how are people going to react? Let's face it, they don't exactly have the best track record when it comes to privacy, something we talk a lot about here. And, when they come out of the gates, I don't know, did you catch any of the hearings at all with Libra and David Circus?
Of course, and again, the politicians are going to use it as their talking points against large corporations, which is fine by me. I mean, if you're going to have these tech companies who are basically collecting lots of data about you and you need something that is going to decentralize them, and people are going to use Libra coin if it ever does come out because it's convenient. But there are going to be alternatives, and I think once people see that they're all, something that is very similar, but your information is not being collected and you can still basically remain private, I think that's going to be ultimately where the space leads itself. But if, Facebook or Amazon want to create their own currencies, again, being an XRP holder is no big deal for us because you still need that bridge. And the more coins, the space is going to be flooded at first. It's like back in the 90s with the dot-coms, and then the winners will slowly make their way to the top.
Yeah, yeah, the winners will. I mean, I think that over time we're gonna probably find out. We'll probably find out a little bit more about, it'd be nice to take a snapshot right now. Let's even if we concentrate on the top 15 or 20, digital assets right now. Be fun to go back and review it 5 years from now. Like, who do you think would still be in that top 10?
That's a tough call, but right away, XRP absolutely, because they've already established themselves. And then Ethereum is doing a lot of work where, even though they're going to have to probably do a chain migration or something of the sort, they are working with, I see them working with Oracle and parts with Microsoft. So again, anyone working with these large tech companies are going to get financing from them. Um, I think they're going to be winners. Maybe a V-Tune or a Cardano will be there, and we'll see, because whatever is there now, in the wings waiting are, 10 more coins from, a lot of the big players. They've been working on this for a long time. I mean, Libra coin just came out of nowhere, but it really wasn't out of nowhere. They were working on this. And I think that's what the space is going to be about, I think, in the next 6 to 10 months.
Yeah, and I think one of the shining examples, I think when Stephen Mnuchin was speaking, I think one of the things that I really connected with was when he had mentioned something to the effect of, look, we've been working on this behind the scenes for a good year or so, right? So it plays into Trump's, his executive order. You look at, XRP is in the executive order, but what it really tells you is that it's been in process, and really Libra coming out really forced the hand because it started freaking Congress out. They started getting a little bit nervous, right? Everybody, all of a sudden, and I think a lot of it has to do, I think 2.5, 2.6 billion users, and just overnight they flip a switch, and the next thing you know, Aunt Betty, she's like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to buy this whatever, because one of the things that I thought Facebook's always been phenomenal at, I'm not a big fan of them, but I'll tell you, if I go on there, they learn me what I like so much that it was one of the few platforms where they actually showed me stuff that I liked. I'm like, oh, that's cool, like a gadget or something,
Right.
something tech, because they're really good at that, right? So I think it was the reach, the potential reach that they had, and I don't know if you caught the when Mnuchin had said that. I really liked that because I thought that was very telling that he kind of played that hand. He didn't say, well, is we some. Because if you looked at what's her name, Hester, they call her Crypto Mom from the SEC. She was asked the question by what's his name, holy cow, what's his name, from Ripple, guy from Ripple, and she was like, well, we want to take a slow approach to it, and then la 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 la, and she just want to make sure we get it right. So I don't know if you saw that little statement, but I thought that was another telling sign for that the SEC wants to get it right. So there's a lot of concern about what are they going to release if they release anything at all. Like, who's going to come on? I mean, is the SEC going to step out first and start knocking it down, or how do you think it's going to play out?
I think it's going to be no one's going to come out. The president's already spoken, and Mnuchin's already spoken on the topic. They're going to just behind closed doors. That's going to all going to be a statement released, and I think that's it. XRP is going to be allowed in the financial sector. I don't think they're going to come out and make this large, big deal about it. I think it's going to be probably, who knows when, but in the near future, and I think it's just going to be done, and you're going to know it because the entire community is going to know it, but the vast majority of people on the street will have no idea what just transpired.
Yeah, exactly. It was Sharice Burlow was the one who had been talking with Hester Pierce. He was the one that stepped up in a forum and had addressed the question. And I do think there is some validity in what she said, which is we'd rather be late and get it right versus putting something out there and then not being 100% or right, or having to, because it's just like anything. It's one thing to come out and say this is how it is, another thing to cause a lot of controversy and not have it quite right. So I mean, I don't really know what to think. I just know it's been a powerful week. All of a sudden, you have Mnuchin speaking. You had the Trump speaking last week saying, about
Right.
how he felt about Bitcoin. I kind of feel like that whole thing had a lot to do with if Trump hates it, then everyone likes it. Well, then then I can see the House trying to get behind it and saying, hey, you know what? What is he talking about? Bitcoin's the greatest thing ever. So, and then you had, the minority leader of the House coming out and saying that he was okay with Bitcoin. So, I mean, there's a lot of mixed messages, but I think a lot of them are heading us in the same sort of direction. Would you kind of agree, or did I lose you?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I hear you.
All right, man. I thought I might have put you to sleep with that one, but I thought, um, yeah. So let me go to the chat right here. So we got Bubba Snipes, Bubba Snipes here. He said I sent President Trump 45 XRP on Tipbot on Twitter today. We can teach them all about Ripple. Yeah, we can teach them all about Ripple and XRP.
I think they already know.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they already do know. I think they know big time. Dan, the XRP man, says if you're voting for Trump, we should contribute to his campaign in XRP. Yeah, it's interesting, right? So it's funny. I wonder if we could peek into if we know it. Well, I guess we can. It's all transparent. We can go look and see what's in Trump's
Yep.
tip bot, right? We can go in there and look it up.
So hey, absolutely, you can convert that, throw it on the exchange, and cash out.
Cash it out for the exchange. Comedian Chuck Real says Christine Lagarde equals solution for the institutions with XRP as a weapon of mass disruption. I like the way that sounds. And Auburn Ranges popped in the room as well here. Yeah. So what do you think about Christine Lagarde? Taking this other position with the European Central Bank, heading it up. I mean, she had to resign her position in order to be.
Yeah.
I don't know who's running against her. I think it's a shoo-in, right? I don't think. I know it's a vote, but is there somebody else going to pop? I mean, somebody that's more prolific than Christine Lagarde that's going to pop out of the woodwork, and all of a sudden they're going to take it. I mean,
No, I think the stage has already been set. You have someone who is a politician who could sell the skeptics on the cryptos that, again, a lot of people, even in the space, really, you have to understand the differences between the technologies, and she's the perfect person to do it. She can get her points across. She's able to, she's very amicable. She could talk to people quite well. She's going to be just fine for the job, whatever they have her do, and she's just going to toe the line and we'll agree with it because it's a line that you and I support, which is basically bringing in XRP for the win.
yeah, exactly. So it's interesting that she's going to go to the European Central Bank, right? And she's basically had all of the right languaging there without saying it, right? So she's kind of more or less condemned over a period of time. She's talked about Bitcoin, she's talked about some of the difficulty with it, and she's talked about really the use case of XRP without actually mentioning it. And I think it was very telling last month when you had Brad Garlinghouse, who really kind of rolled him out at the end, but he pops in one of these events with Christine Lagarde, and it's almost like a nod and a big old like wink like and it was kind of interesting. He had was a short little intro, but he said all the right things on that too. Oh yeah, also XRP Angel Connie says I've also sent my Prez 45 Trump XRP via the tip bot. So it's funny. I wonder if this is becoming a thing where he's going to be piling up some XRP in there. I mean,
I'll tell you something else too. A lot of people on Twitter, when there's an article out and XRP specifically isn't mentioned, they freak out at you, saying, "Oh, but it doesn't say XRP. How can you draw that conclusion?" Well, if you're paying attention and you're seeing who's talking to who, when you watch these videos and you see who's meeting with who, you don't need to make the direct. You could do a little indirect and you could summarize what about what's happening in a specific article without even mentioning XR2. But a lot of people, it's amazing. They still refuse to buy in, and I get it because they want the exact wording. XRP will be used, but for us that can see what's about to take place, Yeah, I feel really good about that.
Yeah. Also, so Bill Nelson said he better, referring to Trump, better pay the tax if he cashes out. Yeah, and it's so funny right now. So yeah, he will have to pay the tax, or if it ends up going into another fund, and who knows? I don't think that it really is supposed to be able to touch any of the stuff, and who knows? That stuff could just be sitting there, and maybe it ends up in the campaign. Auburn Rain says all the right folks are being placed into positions to make the switch to the RippleNet for U.S. and the world. Reset is live, everyone, and yeah, so I think it is live, and what I see happening, I think the move's already gone into full swing. You see that earlier, the Federal Reserve was saying they didn't want to cut rates, didn't want to. Then they held steady. Now we hear another rate cuts coming, and then when you look at nominees going into the Fed, the Federal Reserve is a debt system that has buried not only us, but it's buried the rest of the world just in this constant debt. And when it was a smaller amount, some of that could be managed, right? But it's gotten to the point of where it's time for, like what Rain's saying, the reset. We've got to reset. I don't think it comes until after 2020. There's just a lot of other areas, things that have to happen. But I do feel like something is in the air as far as the Federal Reserve, and that when it comes to sovereignty, we don't even own our own money. Now, we're not the only one. So this whole central banking system isn't doing anybody any favors. I don't know what your thoughts are on that as far as central banking and having the country own its own money, the fiat
There's
currency.
there's no way there's no way the countries that own our debt are going to let the United States fail. It's just not going to happen. There's not going to be riots in the streets. They have a solution, and that solution probably involves digital assets. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like. You have people like Love for Crypto who try to do some good research on the subject matter, and some of the stuff that they put out is, you know what, it's plausible, and the fact that XRP can be used in that regard is absolutely amazing. And too big to fail. They're not going to let the United States tank the entire global market. There's something else already in play, and you could see the underpins all across the globe, from Japan to India, um, even Brazil. I mean, Brazil is the third largest holder of the United States debt, and there's a lot of action going on over there with Ripple.
No, that's a good point. It's a really good point. Yeah, Rain says here gold takes down the Fed and the elite bankers. Yeah, it's funny. Just a little bit of research I've done when we talked about how much. You've probably seen the charts, like how much gold every nation has. I don't think we know how much gold every nation has. I'm not buying into any of it. No country's going public and says, "Oh, this is our goal. This is what we have." I mean, there's speculation, and there may be ways to identify it, but there's no way, at least in my mind, that any country, Russia's not coming out saying we've got this much gold. The U.S. doesn't. We don't really know, but in order to take down the Fed, it's going to take some serious gold. But I think the biggest mistake was really taking us off the gold standard. And when I think about Trump's tweet too, one of the things he mentioned in that tweet was the fact that it was, basically out of thin air. It's not backed by anything. Well, last time I checked, the American fiat currency is not backed by anything. We print it on will. We can print as much as we want of it, right? It's not even backed by gold. It's just worthless. It's an agreement. It's like, let's agree that this piece of paper is worth this, and then it's continually been devalued over time.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, you have the OPEC nations that are basically getting ready to ditch the petrodollar, and I mean, everywhere you look, you have a transformation that is slowly taking place. Will it happen in the next year or two? Don't know. Most likely it will, because you have the Treasury Secretary coming out and specifically mentioning digital assets, and that's never happened before. And when that takes, I mean, the whole thing was a spectacle to begin with, and they tried to make it political. But regardless, he was there to talk about the debt ceiling, and in the same meeting, talk about digital assets, which is remarkable. Something is going on.
Yeah, exactly. Just a couple things in here. So we had Tapped Line says no gold cannot take down anything. The USD is a joke. Right about that. Threadwork Derek says too many complications with gold. You know, the thing about, I think there was a coin that wanted to come out and be backed by gold, and then there was one little missing part was they didn't have the gold, right? So if you're going to back it by gold, you got to really back it. You got to peg it to something, and if you don't have the gold or own the gold or have access to the gold, well, how are you going to have something that's going to be backed by it? Gaming, let's see, what is gaming crypto? He's agreeing, saying, yeah, me too, reign sooner and proactive due to the obvious corruption. Crypto Sifu says, even if they said how much gold they have, who's going to believe politicians at this stage? Yeah, Crypto Sifu, who's ever believed politicians? You know what I mean? There's very few that actually you can believe. Although, I will give it to Trump in the fact that, he's one of the few politicians that came along, made a bunch of promises, and then started enacting them, whether you like him or not. He said, we're going to do this list, and then he started doing the list, and it's like every time you voted for somebody, I don't even care if it was like somebody, a local person, they were going to change the world. It reminds me of when you go back to, high school, right? And I know for a lot of people that don't know this, but you're a ninth grade high school science teacher. Is that right?
Yeah.
So when I think going back to high school, it was like somebody was running for, student government, and they were promising the world, we're not going to have school on Fridays. We're going to have pizza every day in the lunchroom, and everyone's like, yeah, but it turned out that none of that stuff was even possible. But really, how different is that than the politicians that promised the sun, the moon, and the stars? And it's like they get in the office like, well, I don't know if I remember any of that stuff, but I think that, yeah, and HODL's making a good point too. The USD backed by Yeti coin, which is as good as gold. So, I mean, there's always that. Gold standard's coming, says Auburn Rain. Dollar will be backed by gold running on the Ripple net. Gold could hit $10,000 an ounce. It could, but gold hasn't been performing. Barry Silbert, who you see him over there, who was one of the guys funds a lot of the companies out there when they launched that gold. You remember that gold campaign they launched against Bitcoin? Like the new gold. It was kind of a
Grayscale, I think it is.
Grayscale, yeah, and it was kind of funny. It was a funny. I almost thought it was good for people in crypto, but probably not good because somebody who's like bought gold and into gold, you're not going to win them over. I mean, I think we laughed about it being in crypto, but if you look at how Bitcoin has performed over gold, it's been a pretty sizable, I mean, there's gold doesn't really have anything, a conversation in that front. They haven't done well. I think it's actually less money now or more money now. I don't know, less money than it was a couple of years ago. It's just not doing well.
Well, once they come out and tokenize it, and when you have bits of, you could buy little pieces of gold, $10 worth of gold. It's gonna there's your next infusion into the gold market and any precious metals market.
Yeah, and then RTB Dutchy, RTB stands for Roy the Badass. He goes, the advertisement is horrible with this show, and I know it's like a weird thing, like you never get the alerts, but it's on the same time every week, so there's something. Tapline says, if I had gold, I would not sell it. Yeah, I don't think you ever sell gold. I don't think there's any reason. Look, if the zombie apocalypse hits, right, and like you need to trade something, what are you going to trade? What's going to be the monetary value? Bills, or is it going to be gold, or is it going to be silver? And then so at least you have something to fall back on if it goes down to that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny too. If something did happen with some sort of natural disaster and there's no electricity,
like the zombie apocalypse.
There's a company actually working on being able to still trade digital assets. And during Hurricane Sandy, we lost power up here for over a week. But there's this one company called Gotenna, and they basically came out after the fact, but their whole mission was make your cell phone into a communications device, almost like a decentralized device where you could network with other people within a mile radius to have a whole network of people. They're going to do the same thing with cryptos, where you're going to not need to be on any type of internet, and you could still exchange digital assets with a small amount of electricity from a solar panel right to your phone to somebody else.
Yeah, and we actually had that during one of the hurricanes. I actually everybody was downloading the app before the hurricane hit. It was one of these things where we lost power for a little bit, but I don't know that it really was working all that well. So Carl Lewis, it says the Aussie dollar is already backed by liquid gold. And XRP Carolina just popped in with some hand claps there. That's always a good thing. Yeah, so I wanted to, we only have a little bit of time left here, but I wanted to talk a little bit about this one story that I saw, because I'm always seeing stuff, and I'm just really never really, I just wanted to put this on here. Let me see, what am I, one of my scenes here, what scene is it? It must be this one. Bam, there it is. Okay. So I've up on the screen, Jeff Bezos says that space travel is essential basically because we're in the process of destroying this planet. So that's what he's up to. He says that humans need space travel because they're destroying the planet. I mean, I'm not an expert in anything, but I have a news that this planet's going to be here way, way, way probably longer than humans. That's just my feeling on it. And there was a report that came out, I believe it was last week. I tried to find it right before here, but it kind of ran out of time. That basically said that the humans can't possibly destroy the planet. I mean, aside from like nuclear, nukes going off all over the place, but it was a report, it was a deep dive, it was a science report. I might have to save it for next time, but just saying that, look, there's worse things than humans that are happening to the planet. So a lot of these guys think that we need to get off the planet, and that's fine because when they leave the planet, I'll move into their houses, start driving their cars, because it's going to be a tough go when you head out to Mars. There's not only a lot to do. There might only be like one taqueria. You can get a taco at, right? I mean, it might be limited. You got to wait for a shipment. You know what I mean? Like, how good is the life going to be on Mars? I mean, what's your thought about that?
We're nowhere near. I mean, as much as they, you know what? It's always good to dream, and it's always good to develop these new technologies. Go for it. I mean, it would be a huge endeavor. Probably the first couple might fail, regardless. I think the most pressing issue on the planet right now, again, those barring any type of nuclear disaster, the plastics in the water, I think, is more pertinent of a ecological disaster than anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We can clean up. I mean, that is tangible. You could see the plastic, and you could go and get the plastic. The carbon dioxide and the greenhouse effect and all that, I think, is more. There's a lot of politics involved. Whenever there's politics involved, always steer clear. I always tell my students.
Yeah, so
be wary or be more skeptical.
Yeah, Crypto Eddie says, why don't we just change the way we live on this planet? It's a throwaway mentality. I don't agree with it. And it is sad. It's sad to see what's happening in the oceans too. I mean, all this plastic. Like the plastic stuff. What I really liked about Chile, one of the things that I really found really interesting is how they consume products, and a lot of it's made out of paper, so they can be broken down. And one of the cool things that I saw down there was when we went to go pick up my nephew from school. On the premises, they were teaching kids how to grow stuff, right? How to grow stuff in the land, plant stuff. They had experiments outside, but it was just vast. It wasn't like it wasn't like we normally see. It was like rows and rows of planting stuff. You saw kids out there doing stuff. And then they had right next to, it was actually right adjacent, they had this recycling center that was like nothing I had ever seen before. They had every one of the plastics, the 1, the 3, the 5, all of them. You broke everything out by plastic, what number was on the bottle, and then you had different parts of paper, and then other sorts of things. It was just a massive scale. And this is a little small town that my wife is from, called Pirque, and it's about 45 minutes south of Santiago, Chile. But it was impressive what they're doing, and it's impressive the way they were. One of the things too that I found, I thought I would gain a lot of weight because I was eating a ton of bread. But one of the things is you go daily to get the bread from the bakery. There's like 15 different types. You can't find bread in a bag somewhere. It's loaded with preservatives and GMO products. This was fresh stuff. You ate it that morning, or it would go bad by the time 5, 6, 7 o'clock rolled around. So you bought just enough to consume, and I thought that was pretty amazing. And I think that we do have a responsibility to take care of our planet. There's no doubt about that. But we also have to. In my neighborhood, everyone in my neighborhood. I don't know what it's like up in New York because you're up in Long Island, right?
Yep.
How is this? What's the recycle? And this is really off topic, but what's the recycling like? Do you guys have recycling bins you take out to the curb?
We do, and it's funny because it's just one of those things that people do, but it's not really, everyone tries to be conscious, but the bottom line is people are lazy. But what if, one of these little projects tokenize something and you hook up the recycling to a tokenized, where it's some sort of digital asset or something like that, where people actually, instead of having to go to get the 5 cents to put the can into the container, what if something was done revolutionary where that would be much easier? And I think those are the projects you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of environmentally friendly crypto projects sprout out of this whole new digital revolution.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm laughing because Jeff from Huddle Report says, "Hey, if they put a Starbucks on Mars, guarantee people would move there." I would have to move there. Like if I might consider it. Like if I get my flat white every day because I love my flat white. And I blame the Aussies because that's their invention. It's a really fantastic. I actually went to a coffee shop. It was a Colombian coffee shop, which is the last thing you'd probably think about asking for. And I'd requested. I'm like, "Hey, do you guys make a flat white?" And they're like, "Are you from Australia?" I'm like, what gave it away? My American accent? But no, they were like, no. I'm like, no, I just really enjoy that. There's no doubt about that. Bubba Snipe says they use 1 liter clear plastic soda bottles, fill 3/4 with water, bleach, install it in the ceiling tiles. They catch the sunlight, magnifies it, and gives it free lights to the homes. Huh? That's interesting. That's Uh-oh, we got something. We got to talk about something right now. Something important. This is important. We have to talk about XRP Angel Connie. She says she's never ever bought Starbucks. That's kind of bizarre. You live on a different side of the world. Now? Have you ever bought Dunkin' Donuts, right? Or if you're out west, I know you're Midwest. What are some of your coffee shops up there that you frequent? What's like the big one? Is it Starbucks?
I don't. Yeah, Starbucks up here. There is. That's it. Dunkin' Donuts. I don't go there. I brew my own coffee. I'm kind of one of those coffee snobs. I drink my coffee black, but I'm always open up, to try new stuff.
Yeah, that's good. So Crypto Eddie says Japan started using water bottles made with sugarcane husk. That's awesome. And I'm starting to see, I was in Whole Foods last week and there's a whole line of beauty products that was made out of, looked like it was like a pressed cardboard, right? And if you looked it over, it's biodegradable, but really intelligent packaging. So, I mean, getting rid of the plastic, I drink purified water out of I do buy the plastic bottle. We cut way back on that, but just put purified water in there. I got a water filter, and you can do wonders with that. Bob Moneybags in the house. Do you know what a troublemaker Bob Moneybags is? Do you know him, that character at all, Matt?
No, but I'm probably gonna see him a lot more in the zoo. So
Yeah, you'll bump into him. He's a great guy, man, and he really is awesome. He cracks me up. He's a funny dude too. So yeah, I was gonna say a big old shout out to him. But anyway, look, I mean, hey, maybe the planet's gonna be here, maybe it won't. But I do think that Jeff from Huddle's right. You put a Starbucks on there, maybe you put a Dunkin' Donuts, and it's funny because I used to be a Dunkin' guy, right? It was like Dunkin' Donuts, I hate Starbucks, and I don't know what converted me. But that reminds me of the same camps that people get into when it comes to cryptocurrencies. It's like they all fight like they only want. I mean, and I always laugh about this, but can you imagine a stock market? How's that? I have a new stock market, it's a new asset class. Well, tell me about it. How many stocks are in it? Two. Which ones? Bitcoin and Litecoin. We added Ethereum last week. It's like everybody gets into this like defense of defending. I'm a Bitcoin guy and I'm a Litecoin and I'm a VeChain and no man, I like this project. And the bottom line is, I think that it's great. Competition. Some projects are going to make it, some will not. we need them all to make. We need a good number of them to make it. And
It, yeah, it's a reminder of how close we are to the people who actually are creating these projects. That's how early we are, and people still have to be reminded of that. Where you could get on Twitter and people from Ripple or from Holochain will actually talk to you. It's not going to happen like that in 5 years when these projects are making you know they're going to be so they're not going to have the time to sit down and talk to you, and you need to be reminded of that. But that's I think why you have this mentality, because people are still pretty close to the people who are making these projects. They want to see them go, but in 3 or 4 years time, where the average investor or person just picking up crypto, they're not going to care. They're just going to want something that makes money.
yeah, and then Gaming Crypto said, "Hey, can you imagine getting paid, getting a job, then getting paid that day, then streamed payment during each shift after that?" I like Rain's USD across RippleNet a lot. There is an app out there that has that concept where once you're verified, and what they do is they allow you to take out what you normally would earn like that day, and every day in 24-hour period you can just hit it and take it out. So the concept is get paid now or get paid daily, and then it's completely crowdsourced. So what happens is if you want to donate money, I think you can donate up to like 4 or 5, maybe $6 or
Right.
nothing, and you're paying for somebody else to get the money. So it's kind of an interesting concept, but I like the idea of getting that sort of stream going, because I think that there probably will come a time. What was this thing I heard of? Did you get wind of this, Matt? Something about the NFL players or NBA players wanting to be paid in Bitcoin. Did you hear a story like that?
Yeah, I forgot what team it was. It might have been I forgot, but regardless, it's going to streaming payments are going to be across the board. The problem that they're having is how do you tax something like that? So you're going to have to scrap a lot of the tax infrastructure. You're going to have a value added tax put in, and therefore whatever you buy, you get you could tax that way. But micro payments are coming, streaming payments are coming. It's happening, and it's going to be here before you know it.
Wow. So hey, I just wanted a big shout out to Jeff from Hodl Report. Yeah, 18 XRP. Whoa, 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 whoa. He doesn't realize that, but that's gonna be worth a ton of money. I gotta be honest with you. So who do we have on here with the phone? That's a great question. Let's put the so what we have on the chat right now, we have at Matthew Linney, Liny. That stands for Long Island, New York. But we have Matthew on right now. Matthew, tell me a little bit about yourself, just so some of the people don't know you, but talk about how you got into crypto. You can give us a brief overview and what you do for a living.
Yeah, I'm a high school science teacher, and basically, I started watching the space in 2017. Unfortunately, I didn't get in until after the 2017-18 bull run. It's funny. I was trying to buy XRP first at 20 something cents. It went up to $3, and then as it started to come back down, my first purchase was right around 50 cents, and I've been slowly making purchases ever since. But my brother was into Litecoin and Bitcoin, but again, not understanding the space until I really, you know, tried to figure out what exactly is about to happen. And once we see that this is going to be, as everyone talks about in the space, the next, this is the first asset class being created in hundreds of years. I mean, how can you not want to be a part of that?
No, that's well said. The first new asset class in a couple hundred years. Like, how can you not want to be a part of it? And it is early. I know we are early. There's no doubt about that. But I think that I wanted to go ahead and put your Twitter up here. If people aren't following you, and now a lot of people out there may know you from Twitter because you do these amazing. You're a great researcher. One of the things that I noticed you pretty early on, and I've always appreciated the research you've done and some of the deep dives you do, because your research skills are phenomenal. You have a good, I mean, if nobody did anything but just follow you, you find stuff that's really pertinent and out there and interesting stuff just by going to your feed. So I'm just kind of strolling through your feed right now. Like here's the Brad Garlinghouse. I think this is from the CNBC. Yeah, CNBC Squawk Alley that talked about it.
Right.
So that's why I said, guys, if you're not following Matthew, go out there and follow him. He's at Matthew Linney, Liny. I know that's like an acronym of sorts. But yeah, go follow him because I'll put you back up here. There it is right there, at Matthew Liny, which stands for Long Island, New York, which is where he's from. And you were on here one other time, and I really have to say you do an amazing job. Like I don't know if it's because you're a teacher or because it's science, but you have like a really good nose for sniffing out these stories. Like what are some of your secrets? I mean, like, because I don't know where sometimes you pull these things up. We're all looking at the same stuff, but you seem to dig up some really interesting stuff.
You know what it is? There are a couple of websites that actually will aggregate a lot of the stories. I kind of go there, and I basically there are a lot of keywords you have to use. And it's funny because sometimes though I'll find a story, I'll think, oh my God, I haven't seen this yet, and then I'll go over to Bank XRP or XRP Crypto Wolf, and it's been there for like 3 hours. So even when you pick up your internet will determine if you actually see a feed before someone else. But it's not just about getting there first. It's about putting the information out to the entire community so everyone is informed and can see what's going on. Because where else are you going to do this? Think about that. You can't go on TV, even doing the research yourself. There's just too much information. But having people like you and Crypto Ari and Digital Asset, like all it really makes our job a lot easier in seeing the big picture. And I think that's that I think is most important. It's really fascinating to be a part of it. I'm really happy to contribute as much as I can.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I'm always appreciated because you always put some stuff, and a lot of times I don't get to look at it. I think sometimes too, it's great when you like I get tagged in a story and I like, oh God, I gotta check this out. And then there's like 5 new stories like I get slammed, like I can't think of all the possible stuff. And then I know you sent me this other thing. I'm actually looking for it right now on the screen while I'm talking. I'm trying to see if I can find it, but this was yeah.
I see my job. I see my job basically as someone who just puts out stories. I'm not the one that has the. I'm not in front of the camera. You guys are. So we give you the information wherever you can find it. If it makes your job a lot easier, because I know how hard it is to put together, one of these live chats, and then the information gets out, which is great. That's most important.
Yeah, agreed. And Crypto Eddie was on did a stream with Brad Kimes, and one of the things that they discussed was, the fact is you can get inundated because just the same way, the reason I started streaming is like you want to have a little bit of a voice. I'm a little more of a vocal person, but one of the things you just want to comment on stuff. So one of the things that they had mentioned in that chat was the fact that people like XRP Crypto Wolf and some of the other Mr. B's and Obi-Wan. The people out there that are just and people, and yourself that are doing the dives and finding the stuff and sniffing it out. Because a lot of times I look and I'm like, where did he find this story from? I always like, there's always 1 or 2 of those a day where I'm like, that's the first place I saw it, or I have to dig into it, or it really captures my interest. And that's why I'm telling everybody
Right.
here, if you're not following Matt, go ahead and follow him because he's always putting some amazing stuff out there. And I also like when you put a story out, then you usually capture like the first couple pieces of the story or the most pertinent parts. So even if you don't have a lot of time, you can open up the thread and just read about what some of the like key points, which is nice. So you're kind of doing the work for us.
I like to do that. I do that for my students too. If there's a story, I'll just pull out the key talking points, and that's where the main amount of the good stuff, the stuff that we are interested in. That's what I'll put that out front, and hopefully other people then will add to it. And I think when you have like Stewart XRP and then you have let's see XRP Solomon. They add. I mean, it's amazing. There are times where I put a story up and then the story has already been out, which is fine. But then there's more information that could be added to it. It's just really fun to be a part of.
Yeah, right on. And so I want to wrap it up here because I know, believe it or not, that was a quick hour, right, Matthew? I mean, we just like started, it feels like 5 minutes ago. And I want to shout some other people that came in here. XRP
So
Carolina.
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, XRP Carolina said, hey, hello, Matthew. Thank you for talking with us tonight. Let's see what else we see here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Notorious is in here. Notorious puts out some badass videos. I don't know how he continues to come up with new ideas because you think he's always got another edge. I was watching one of the videos the other day. It's like there's always like another sort of a dimension, right? So he's in here. Dan the XRP man, Roy, Dutchy. RTB Dutchy's in here. Let's see who else. Oh, Zbits came in. Hey, Zbits, what's up? He's popping in. Another zoo guy. Clara T. Snowden's here. Great stream. Thanks, Claire. Always appreciate your support. Also, Roy, Bubba Snipes, Threadwork Derek. Thank you for contributing, guys. Really appreciate it. Threadwork Derek says, hey, thanks. Great finding people that are on the same page. Bob Moneybag says, Chip, what's your thoughts on the potential of an XRP zoo validator? I don't know if I'll get into that. I think I'll share that a little bit off. I have my thoughts on it. I did express them earlier. But I don't know if this is the right forum, but I will take that up with you, Bob. We'll share that and we'll deep dive that one together. XRP Carolina, Jeff from Hodl Report. I know Crypto Eddie was in here earlier tonight. We have always Auburn Rain, who's always got. And Rain, we got to schedule something. Maybe we can schedule something next week. Maybe next Thursday if you're available. Check the calendar, but we'll get Rain on here too. Rain and I talk a lot offline as well, which is always cool. I just love this community. I love the people in it. I love the giving. I love the ability you take some time tonight just to talk crypto. One of the things Matthew said to me is he goes, it's so cool that you get to just talk crypto, especially XRP with like-minded people, right? Because, how many times you start talking and they're like, oh, here's Matthew again with the XRP or the this or the that. But,
I've learned the lesson.
We all learned the lesson.
Long ago.
We all learned the lesson, man. It's all the same sort of lesson. But listen, I wanted to thank everybody for coming tonight. Crypto Eddie says, hang in, doing prep for video, enjoying the conversation. Thank you, Crypto Eddie, for showing up today. I really appreciate it. And I also loved the stream you did with Brad Kimes. That was awesome. Which I listened to, I don't know, about an hour and a half ago. I started, it was funny because I started it, stopped it. This is how it is, right? When we're listening to stuff or doing stuff. It's funny, sometimes I'll hit you up on it with a DM and I can always tell you're always online or not too far away from it, Matt. I don't know, you might be one of those guys that's kind of always online, but
here and there, it's a part of my job.
Everybody's online. Just admit it. Admit it right here for everybody.
The good news is I'm off for the summer, so
that's right. That's being a teacher. Right on. Fair enough. Well, that makes sense.
For the next 2 months, yes, I will be sniffing out those stories. But I could tell you, once school starts, it's very difficult. But I'll still contribute as much as I can.
Yeah, right on. I think we're getting spoiled a little bit right now because you're doing so much of that right now. But anyway, hey, thanks for coming on here. I love talking that. I love everyone in this community. Let's go out and make it a great week. Don't forget, tomorrow night in this time slot right here, not exactly here, but in the slot at 10 o'clock, we have Rain. Auburn Rain is going to be here. Then the following morning, 8 a.m., we have what's his name? Jeff from Hodl Report. And before this, we have also the streams usually right around 9 o'clock, but we have Digital Nomad Investor. We know him better as DNI. DNI streams in the 9 o'clock slot, and he's on vacation right now. I believe he's up in Detroit. So anyway, that's my take. That's Matt's take. What's yours? Let us know in the down there in the comments. Chip out.